That's 5:30, and I believe everybody is ready to go, so I will go ahead and call this March 22nd, 2018 meeting of the Carson City Library Board of Trustees to order. And we can proceed with the roll call.
Chairperson Hayes.
Present.
Vice Chair Long.
Present.
Trustee Solinger. Trustee Patton. Here. Trustee Liverati. Here. A quorum's present.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, public comment. If anybody would like to address the library board, now is the time. Seeing none forthcoming, we'll move on to item 3, approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Did everybody have a chance to review those minutes? Are there any corrections? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move the minutes be approved as written.
I second.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to item 4, the Friends of the Carson City Library report.
There is a library report in your packet, and I have nothing to add to that tonight.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 5, Library Board of Trustees business. Do any trustees have business to bring forward? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6, the Library Director Administrative Reports.
Find myself a microphone. In your packets, you will see the budget reports for March, and you'll see the revenue coming in there first. We've received additional funds from the Friends of the Library for the calendar year 2018, as well as additional grant funding through our community enhancement or enrichment grants. You will then see the expenditures for the library. We are on track and underspent currently in our city budget. We'll talk a little bit about how some of that salary savings that we currently have will be used in a moment. So then you'll go into the city fund expenses. Our salaries, we are currently about 57% spent in salaries and wages and 53% in our benefits, and we're 67% of the year lapsed. Part of that is our librarian position. It did take a while to fill that position. It was empty approximately 5 months, but what we did do is use additional hourly staff during that time, and so we will be able to move some of that salary savings in our full-time staff into our hourly staff to cover for the overages that we may see there. And in our temporary staffing, which is our marathon staffing, which is we have some part-time staff on marathon as well. So if there's no questions, we're on track there. And we're 60% spent overall for 67% of the year lapsed. Then our grant funding, we have been spending in our Makerspace grant. That's a new number there that you guys hadn't seen. The P-card reports are a little bit late in kind of getting into the city reports, and so that's why you're starting to see that now. We are running our Makerspace, Maker in Residence for sewing this month, in the month of March, and then we will be running our soldering for the month of April. If you're interested in getting certified in soldering or in the sewing, just go ahead and take a look at our calendar and you can sign up for classes that way. And then if there's no questions there, I'll move on to the gift fund. We are relatively low spent in the gift fund at this time. Our largest is the collection, which is the lease that the Friends provide funding for, and most of what we have spent is from the Friends funding rather than the gift fund funding of other donations. If there are no questions there, I will move on, or I can move on to the next report.
Thank you, please do.
Okay, so just a couple quick updates about library operations. A national medalist finalist update. So our day was on March 16th for us to have our story shared on social media, and Jeremy is aware of this, and I hope all of you were through social media or the newspaper or Carson Now. The library was closed on the 16th. At the library location, I'd say we had probably a little over a foot of snow. And the mayor and city manager decided to call it right about 9:15. We did have 2 staff still show up because we were originally on a late start as requested by the mayor, but they went home. They were happy to go home, and then we opened back up on Saturday, and then we were open on Sunday as well. So with that, we did still share some stories on social media that day. IMLS, which is the Institute of Museum and Library Services, did still share our stories on their Facebook pages, and so that all went really well. We've been recording people's stories if they want to come into the library to video camera record them, or they can email them to us so we can post them. And so we're working on processing some of those videos now, and we'll have those up. Kind of a fun, this is going to be a preface, and it's going to be a little bit of a mystery to you guys, but Diane and I actually just sat in a meeting for a business reference over at the Hub for a business here near town in Mound House who didn't know we were from the library at first, told his story about how the library helped him get his patent and learn what he needed to learn to create the product that he created. And so we're going to work with Kat so that he can share his story as well, because I think it's a really, really neat story. And then I encourage you all to share your stories on social media. You can do it at any point in time. The Share Your Story campaign ends April 13th, so we've got a little bit of time there. And then with that, kind of to culminate this for us, we have invited, and he has accepted, Milton Shen will be coming out to Carson City again. Education Nation is one of the books that he's written. He lives in the Bay Area, and he works with the George Lucas Foundation. He's also the chairman of the Panasonic Foundation. But he will be coming out. He'll be doing a lunchbox learning session at the Hub, and then in that evening, he will be doing kind of a keynote, and then we'll do a panel on workforce development and education in our community. And we're still looking TBA on the location of that and the exact start date of that, but we will make sure that gets sent out to all of you as well. So that's April 12th, which is also during National Library Week. Okay, so not so fun story. Our elevator last week, the belt on the door broke. The elevator company did come out and fix it, but we had to close upstairs for any upcoming patrons due to that, because the stairwells that we have, one, not ADA accessible, and 2, they are emergency exits as well, so people could just leave with library materials. So that happened again today. So it is currently closed, but we are checking out laptops to any patrons, any adult patrons who want to use computers downstairs. And we hope that the elevator company will be there in the morning, because they're usually there in the morning is when they come in. And hopefully they can fix it for good this time. But just an update on that so you guys kind of know what's going on. And then the last, but definitely not least, yesterday Diane and I presented at the Internal Finance Committee our request for increases in our budget, our supplemental items as recommended by the board, and I think that went really well, and we'll see exactly what comes out of that, but they have changed the budget open house date and the board presentation date. So the open house date is now April 2nd, and there'll be a session from 12 to 1:30 and a session from 5:30 to 7. And then the Board of Supervisor meeting, in which the tentative budget is being heard, and the board essentially decides what supplementals they will include into the budget, so what increases, is on April 19th, and it will be at some point during that day. Are there any questions?
Kind of like the cable.
Correct.
No, thank you very much.
I won't be able to go to that board meeting.
All right, moving on to item 7, the other administrative reports, starting with admin and grants.
Yes, Diane Baker for the record. And first up in what you see in your report is our Make It at 2 grant and some of the cool things that have gotten underway. Sina did mention that we do have our first Maker in Residence for our fabric design and sewing. You see one picture there. And the other thing that recently came in is our new fabulous Boss laser cutter engraver. The one we had at the open house was from our maker van, because this one was on order and was taking a little longer than we expected to come in. So we have the machinery in place. It's gone through test runs, and we are scheduling different intro to laser cutting and other things so we can get that into our schedule, and putting together the schedule out through the end of June to fulfill the grant, and looking forward through the summer to be part of the Summer Learning Challenge as well. So those schedules and dates will be coming out very soon. And then the other part that you have there is just wanted to update you. It's something that we're making sure that all our staff are going to be trained in first aid and CPR. It's offered by the city's fire department. We have had different episodes over time. We're one of the more busy public entities, and I think this will be a really good aspect for our staff, and with some of the new staff that we have as well. So we'll all have equal training through the classes by mid-May. So I think that will be a good point for the individuals to feel more comfortable when things happen, which they do in our public space. So that's what I have at this point. Did you have any questions?
No, that's phenomenal.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Diane.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Access Services update.
Kathy Rush, for the record, Access Services Manager. So the report in your packet covers two of the sort of new areas of circulation, access and circulation services. The first is the new information desk, which is very exciting. After having had the other desk configuration for many decades, the new one is very different. It tends to get a lot of compliments and comments from people, and especially the kids who love the fact that they look like giant Legos. And the little building blocks, or the big building blocks, I should say, that make up the desk are very colorful and very different, and everyone seems to really like them. There are some extra pieces that are out for the public to see and handle and touch and look at, and that's been very popular as well. So I think the other really wonderful aspect of the new desk is the windowed wall that used to enclose Sina's office, and I think it's just a stroke of genius to put that where it is, where it's just so much easier to see the rest of the library and for the light to come in, and it's just quite wonderful. The other thing is our digital equipment is now gone online with a module, equipment module in our LibCal application, and now patrons can actually see the equipment we have from their home on their computer and see pictures of the cameras. They can see the parts that come with it. They can also link to the actual manuals and see instructions. I think the most convenient thing is that they can actually reserve those cameras or Chromebooks and other digital equipment that we will be adding from home, and plan to have it on a certain day at a certain time, and it's there for them. So that part's been really great, and our circulation librarian, Ermel Reinhardt, did a training last Friday and took staff through the steps of reserving, checking in, and checking out through that module. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Kathy. Moving on to the collection development report.
Amy is not here, but the report is in your packet for you to review.
Excellent, thank you very much. Moving on to Item 8, the board members' announcements and RFIs. Are there any announcements or requests for information? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, public comment. If any members of the public wish to address the library board, now would be the time. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 10, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. So moved.
We are adjourned.
Well, it's not 7 minutes.
It was close.